Hello and welcome to the Quantum Bridge with myself, Casper. My cat BB will probably make an unwanted appearance, maybe wanted for some. And I just wanted to say we're very pleased that we have yet another new guest, brand new guest. And it's really great that people are being willing to be brave enough, bold enough to come on and share their truths with us. So thank you to our new guest, who Gary will introduce now, but thank you to all our recent guests. We know that it's not easy. So, yeah, thanks everybody. And Gary, hi mate, you all right?
I'm good, thank you, Casper. Yeah, yourself?
Good,
Keeping well.
good. Yeah, yeah.
So we do have a
Raring
new
to go.
guest. Yeah, I found Adam through X, like a lot of the people that we have on the show. It's been very helpful for that. If you are on there, I can recommend his channel. It's full of insights. Some might trigger you, some might, but it's a mix of everything, and I find it really interesting, which is why I invited him on. So, Adam, it's great to meet you finally. Welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
And again, guys, the pleasure is all mine. I just want to say, and we were just talking about this a few moments before, what you guys are doing, Gary and Casper, you're bringing people to the table so that they could, people that you would not normally see on these circuits, and you're bringing them together to share ideas and insights. And every single person seems to have a little piece of the puzzle. And I think all this strife we see in this world, we're going to look back and say, wow, this is all divinely orchestrated, because now all of a sudden you're creating this wonderful, podcast. You're bringing people together. In the end, this is the most beautiful thing that could happen. This, in all the ancient texts, was said that was going to happen. People were going to come together, in unity and share their ideas and share their thoughts. And that's how you raise consciousness. Now, I don't know where we want to go with this as far as,
Well,
I don't want to be as inflammatory as possible, but, I kind of like keeping a little positive, because I see everything working in such a divine way. And we're all meeting each other. Had there not been all the strife in this world, we wouldn't know each other. So, again, my name is Adam Yannotta. I wrote this book and I told them I would come on. It's called The Seven Secrets of Greatness.
this is the book you was writing, yeah.
Yeah, so this book is finished, and it's
Ah,
being designed right now, and it'll be published very soon. Now, the best thing about this book is it was written with the top people in this world. If you guys know any of you guys know Daryl Anka?
no.
That name does ring a bell, but I can't position it. No.
He is the number one channeler in probably the history of the world. I don't know what people think about channeling. I used to laugh at it, but he channels an entity called Bashar. Um, Bashar is the number one channeler in the world. If you guys take a look at his work, I'll actually put it in the comments for you guys. But if you take a look at Bashar's work, he basically, what happened with me was I was a school teacher. I was a coach. Basketball was my passion. Basketball led me to teaching, but I also worked on Wall Street because money was my second passion, as everyone else's. So I actually worked in Trump's building, 40 Wall Street. So I worked on Wall Street, and a lot of people know Trump, and Trump's actually a funny guy. I don't know what people think about him, this and that, but the presidents are prisoners. They don't have as much power as we think. But I'm going to skip all that stuff for now. So anyway, so I go work on Wall Street. From Wall Street, I start coaching. I really wanted to be like a basketball coach, a Division I coach, this and then go that route. So I wound up teaching in the same high school I went to. I This is a school I had so many regrets. I thought I failed at this school. I really did. I'm like, how would they want me to become a teacher? But I was an athlete. So they kind of brought me in because I could coach and I was an athlete, but they knew I was a 90 student up until like junior year. Then I gave up on school and I thought it was me. But a part of me was like, it's the school that did it. It's the school. But here I was at the same school. I have regrets. The same school I thought I failed at. And I was able to correct a lot of wrongs. See, in the public education system in Staten Island, in New York, where I'm from, in America, you're teaching kids earth science who should be learning medical programs, who should be electricians, who should be plumbers, but we're teaching them earth science and we're teaching them certain subjects. I think these kids just give up. So when I became a teacher, I created a sports medicine program. This sports medicine program operated as a medical program. And so all of a sudden, I was sending kids to school with basic understanding of anatomy and physiology. I ran a health program with Dr. Oz. So Dr. Oz would come to my school, and I did such amazing things that I healed myself from all those regrets. And I said to myself, holy sugar, maybe I was supposed to fail. I started to see this universe really make a lot of sense to me. Like, wow, maybe I was supposed to fail and feel like this so that when I came back, I could help so many people. And that's what I did. And that's really part of my book. There's 7 principles that keep repeating throughout this reality. These principles you could find from the golden age of Greece, from Plato, Aristotle, Socrates, all the way up from Alexander the Great to Julius Caesar, to the Renaissance, to the Age of Enlightenment. There's 7 principles that keep repeating. The billionaires used it. If you're talking about Freemasonry, there's certain principles above Freemasonry. And the top people above Freemasonry, I don't even like talking about this, but they don't believe in God. It's not that they don't believe in God. They don't believe in Satan. They believe in God, but they believe they have the power to create things. They are on the level of the gods. They let everybody under them worship Satan and all this, but the people up at top, they don't. They worship these 7 principles. So these 7 principles are very, very interesting because they are the key that unlocks the door to this reality. And they're written with the best channelers in the world, with help from people like the great Billy Carson. If you guys know Billy Carson's doing amazing work, and he's helped me out tremendously as a mentor, as a friend. And what's interesting is this. So my first principle of my book, the first secret, is miracles are the norm in life. They're not the exception. They are the natural order of things. So when we're thinking of miracles, we wake up like, oh, a miracle that didn't happen today. I didn't win $1 million. But there's a freaking orange thing in the sky we call a sun. That orange thing is 40 times bigger than the moon, but just so happens to be 40 times further away, giving them the same appearance in the sky. That's impossible. I'm in mathematics. That is mathematically impossible. And so that's a miracle. Every day we wake up and that sun's in the sky, that's a miracle. So there's a lot of beauty around us. Now, I believe the powers that be, they understand that this social media could bring us together and we could actually discover the secrets of this universe and raise consciousness to a level where we don't need to buy Lamborghinis, where we don't need to become Kardashians. It's very dangerous to them. So I believe everything we see out there, all this election stuff and Trump stuff, and even the human trafficking stuff, which is terrible out there, they're throwing everything at us because if they could distract us from discovering the principles of this reality, then they could have total control over us. So, I don't even like talking like this because I don't want people following me. I don't want men in black coming to my house, but there are certain principles of this reality that repeat. And that's
Adam,
one.
can I just quickly ask, are these principles that have been sort of part of your growth and intuition and sort of as our frequencies do rise, these things have sort of come to you or resonated with you? Have you found them as sort of secret, quote unquote, secret wisdom, or is it a combination of a number of things? Just for the audience's sort of to help them navigate around sort of where these have come from, their genesis, and how they relate to your own journey. Can you just give a little bit of context around them?
Now, I've seen these principles repeating. I've noticed them. I just could never put these principles into words. But like the person I was talking to you, Bashar was able to put these exact principles into words so that when I heard him speak for the first time, I was like, oh my God, I couldn't explain it, but he was able to explain it and I lived it. See, many people hear something in the Bible and they're like, oh, that gospel sounds great. I'm going to adopt that as my philosophy. However, I took so much physical action in this reality that when somebody said something that resonated with me, I'm like, oh my God, how does he know that? And so a lot of these principles, they actually come from him. So he was very instrumental in helping writing this book with his team. And I'm just grateful to be a part of him and his team. And if you guys get to know him and find out, you're going to find out that he is the number one teacher, the number one channeler on this planet. He's Edgar Casey times 10 times 100, and he's up there with some of the greatest minds. And listen, I say this because I've seen what he's said some things to me just privately that blew my mind. Let me just say one thing he said, and I really shouldn't be talking about his information, but in 2019, somebody said, you know, Daryl gets himself into a hypnotic state. You guys know what channeling is, right? Like
Yeah.
We've had someone here, yeah.
Yeah, so he brings in this entity. And we may say, this is nonsense. This is nonsense. But this guy does things linguistically. He told me things in this state that I wouldn't even tell anybody, but it blew my mind so much that I was hook, line, and sinker, you know, sold. Anyway, so he says this in 2019, someone goes, you know, Bashar, you know, how's 2020 going to be? This and that. And this is before COVID, I think, or might have maybe it was 2018, right before COVID, right before all this craziness. He goes, I don't think you guys understand what's going to happen. He goes, everything you know about this reality is going to change. He goes, it is going to be crazy. And I've never heard him say that before in a private setting. He goes, it's going to be crazy. Humanity is going through what's called the eye of the needle. That means every kind of thing that we have on this planet that's no longer serving us is going to come up. This is 2018. I mean, there was some things coming up at this time, but you know, he goes, everything is going to come up at once, and you as humanity gets to choose what you want to keep and what you want to remove. But it's up to you, you know, to decide what you want for humanity. And I thought that was amazing. So a lot of these principles come from him explaining it, but me living it. So, you know, I'll just go over another principle also.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, let's go through it. Yeah.
Yeah, so there's a second principle that repeats, and I kind of know it. You might hear it. These principles, they're like in these little catchphrases, you know, when it rains, it pours, when it's good, it's great. You heard these catchphrases before. And that is because circumstances in life, they don't necessarily matter. They don't matter at all. It's our state of being that creates our reality for us. And there's a lot of quantum physics in this. How you feel, how you think, how you act is what creates your reality. So you have two kids who were born in the hood. One kid becomes a killer and homeless on the street. The other kid becomes president of the United States. How could that happen? One kid just had a different mentality. But the other kid, you know, succumbed to the fear that we are programmed to succumb to. If we succumb to the fear, if we look on social media and we see the fear and we see this going bad and we see that going bad, we kind of, our state of being is a little messed up and we're easily programmable like that. But if you have no fear, in the Bible, 365 times in the Bible, it says, do not fear. The Bible is a science book. It's a biology book. It's not a book of words. It's a book of biology. Do not fear. Basically, it's saying circumstances don't matter. Your state of being matters. When you don't fear, whatever happens, you block out that frequency. When you block out that fear frequency, all of a sudden, you start to see a little more clear. And when you start to see clear, you start to think clear. When you start to think clear, you start to act clear, and good things start to happen. And it's all because, and then all of a sudden you're exercising, you're drinking water, and on it goes. And it's our circumstances that don't matter. It really is our state of being. And that can be changed overnight, just with the thought of that. And it's amazing. And one more thing with the miracles. Let me jump back to the miracle one here. And this is where it gets real interesting, because while I'm writing this book, I have my best friend growing up. We were in the third grade. I was crying when I had to go to the third grade. I was like, Mom, please don't take me to school. I'll do anything not to go to school. Anyway, she brings me to school. It's the first day of school. I'm in the third grade and I'm crying. And this kid walks up to me. This kid was made of something different, guys. He wasn't human. He grabbed me by the hand and he said, I think he was in my first grade class, whatever it was. He said, Adam, there's nothing to worry about. Come with me. I'll walk you in. He held my hand and walked me in. And we were best friends ever since. And this kid would wind up going to West Point. He would wind up doing things. He was just not, no, I don't think he missed a day of school. He was actually, I call this in my book, a guide of greatness. He based these people show you what's possible in life. And he wound up going to West Point, working for Goldman Sachs, and he wound up getting picked up by this guy, Vincent Viola. Vincent Viola is the owner of the Florida Panthers hockey team. So he loved my friend, and my friend, he took my friend. My friend's the president and CEO of the Florida Panthers. And he helped me out tremendously in this book. And I'll tell you why. Because as we're going through this book on miracles, my friend's team is just barely, you guys know hockey at all?
Somewhat, not as much as you guys do. Yeah.
Okay, so NHL is actually starting to become a better sport. It's one of the great, it's one of the best live sports. And anyway, his team barely get, I'm like, shit, I have this book, excuse my language. I have this book coming out, and my friend's team who's helping me in the book, who's in this book, who's writing blurbs for this book, his team is not going to make the playoffs. Like they just barely squeak into the playoffs. And I'm like, oh my God, this is, thank God, at least they made the playoffs. Because, the book comes out and his team makes the playoffs. The problem is he was up against the best team in the history of the NHL, the Boston Bruins. Or was it the St. Louis Blue? It might have been the Boston Bruins. The Boston Bruins won more games this year, not this year, last year going on, than any other team in regular season history. They were the number one seed. They were expected to win the Stanley Cup Finals. And here's my friend playing against them. And here I have a book on miracles, and I'm like, oh, they're going to get, wiped away. And of course, they go down 3-1 and their season's over. But I was like, at least they got there. Mm-hmm. But all of a sudden, the impossible happens. This team comes back from 3-1. That doesn't happen. That doesn't happen in any sport. It certainly doesn't happen against the best team in the history of the NHL. And he comes back 3-1, and they beat the Boston Bruins. So even he knows the books about miracles. I know the books about miracles. Bashar knows about the Panthers and them helping out. And everyone sees this miracle, and they come back and go to the Stanley Cup Finals. Now, they lose in the Stanley Cup Finals. However, it was a miracle. That's miracles are the norm. I started to see these miracles all throughout my life. I started to be led to this person, to that person. And I had a student of mine when I was in high school. This kid was made of something different. I don't know what it was. He was a good athlete at the time, but he just had this persona about him. I would eventually learn later why, where he came from and what he had to battle before he got to where he was. Anyway, he was a good football player. So I just wanted to get him into any college. So I would bring him to my mother-in-law, so she could tutor him and just get him into a college. Let's get him into a college. Maybe he could play football, whatever. Let me just help him whatever I can. I just knew in my heart there was something about this kid. So this kid goes to Miami, plays a couple of years in Miami as a running back. He gets hurt. His career's over. It's done. So he comes back to New Jersey and plays for Rutgers football, college football. And he has a good year at Rutgers, but he doesn't get drafted, and his career is over. Now, it would be over for you. It would be over for me because I would be like, that's it. Let me get ready. But for a kid who's been through so much in his life, that was nothing. So he goes out and tries to get onto a team, a practice squad. That's what you do if you want to try to get into the NFL. You want to be a professional athlete, you go to the practice squad. So he gets called to the Baltimore Ravens practice squad. Now, the Baltimore Ravens, they had 9 running backs. It would have took all those running backs to get hurt for him to ever get up there. Miracles are the norm because all those running backs got hurt, and he got up there to the NFL, and he was taking, handoffs with a guy by the name of Lamar Jackson. Him and Lamar Jackson built up a rapport. And right now, this year, Gus Edwards is the #1 running back on the number one team in football. They lost to Taylor Swift, you know, in that team, but he scored 13 touchdowns this year. He was third in the league in touchdowns for running backs. He was played in the AFC Championship game, and even he was going to help, you know, even he was instrumental in my life and this book. And it's amazing. I'm seeing all these miracles happen, and there were so many more. As I'm writing this book, just by writing this book, things were happening. People that could help me were actually mastering their life in these crazy ways. So that, I mean, so this book is about that and what I've seen and how this reality works. And if we follow our passion, all of a sudden it opens up the doors to a very strange life. And when you believe that this strange stuff could be possible, then all of a sudden it starts not only becoming possible, it starts becoming expected. Now I expect it. And all of a sudden I'm led to this one, I'm led to that one, and then I'm led to, and I'm like, oh shit, I cracked some code here. You know, but I didn't crack a code. This has been known throughout the ages. And that's where I stand.
Yeah.
But I'm blabbing away.
No, it's fine. It's good. It's good. But I think it's really important what you said about the coming out of that fear space. I mean, I've spent, well, pretty much my entire life in that fear.
Me.
You know, it was very difficult for me to come and do this show. But when we spoke earlier about the guests that we have on and just regular people, that was part of me doing that, was to show that even though this isn't my natural environment, but you just give it a go and it hopefully open up doors for other people who think, well, you know, he's not comfortable, but maybe I'll go on there as well, and encourage others to speak out. So I think it is a time when you say these miracles are happening. I see them so much more now, and me and Casper talk about it all the time. That thing of expecting stuff. If you move into that space, then it's quite an interesting thing to watch. But as we're always short on time, let's move on to number 3, I believe now.
So number 3 is, and I just want to say, you guys are a miracle, and you guys are a big part of this. You're not doing this to make a name for yourself. You're doing this because you know something's wrong in the world. And I swear, the people that do that, it's like the gods know that they can't help this person out. They can't help that because they know they're going to take this and you know, go the wrong way with it. So they have to find the most beautiful souls, and that's you two. That's Gary and Casper. And you guys are beautiful, and such beautiful souls. And I see like I see 2 gods in front of me, you know. And I've seen people who have mastered this reality. But when I look at you two bringing people together, you're more important than all the professional athletes and all the sports executives. You're more important than all of them. All right. So my third one is the universe is always conspiring in our favor. You know, you heard the story. My father died in 9/11. He was a first responder. He got sick, and he wound up dying a few years after 9/11. You know, he had all lung issues, this and that. It was a shame. My brother was in World Trade 7. He made it out. His building fell. So you'll hear many stories about 9/11 where somebody spilled coffee on their shirt and they were late to work. Or somebody got stuck in traffic, or somebody had a rough night the night before and didn't show up to work. And they survived. And now the universe seems to be conspiring in all our favors at all times. Like I said, at first, I was in finance. And then all of a sudden, I was a teacher at the same school. And I don't even know how that happened. But the universe was conspiring in our favor. Now, I had a back problems when I was younger. So when I was younger, my back always went out. So when I was an athlete, I was always at chiropractic. I was always getting fixed. And I was always have regret about that. Like, damn, what my life could have been. I led New York City in 3-pointers when I was in high school. So I was, you know, I was a shooter. I was a player. I was an athlete. My back just didn't work like the rest. Anyway, so now I become a school teacher, and I always had regrets. Why did my back have to be like that? Then as a coach, I had this kid, Zach. This kid, Zach, looked just like me. And I love this kid. This kid was great. He was a great athlete, but his back started going. And I said, oh God, Zach, you know, he's like, you know, coach, what do I do? I'm like, you know, Zach, let me bring Zach to my chiropractor. So I bring Zach to the same, and my chiropractor was an angel, Dr. Stephen Mendola. that guy was an angel. He was a chiropractor, but I know that guy was an angel because when I would go there, he would talk about this and life and, girls, and he would really he was like the father you never had. And then I would bring Zach to Mendola. And Dr. Mendola was able to help Zach and heal Zach. And Zach was able to go on to play minor league baseball, where he broke nearly every hitting record and fielding record. And then Zach went to the Minnesota Twins, where he would take the team to the playoffs. Zach won his first game. He robbed a guy by the name of Manny Machado from a home run. And it was the most amazing thing. So I said, maybe my back problems were to help Zach out. And I was so happy that he was playing Major League Baseball and his life. But then Zach got hurt. And I said, oh, so I kind of had that regret. Oh, I guess my back problems went for naught, However, the universe is always conspiring in our favor for the best, for the best for our soul. What did Zach do? Zach didn't stop playing baseball. Around the house from me, Zach created a baseball clinic with a few guys from the Mets. Right now, Zach is making more money than he could ever make playing baseball. And he's sending kids to playing professional. He's sending athlete after athlete to Division I schools. They're playing in the pros. So Zach has opened up the door to so many other kids to become professional athletes. And I'm starting to see the beauty in this world like that. So all my nightmares, my blessings, they were really disguised as nightmares, but they were blessings. So that's my, third secret. And that's the secret that you guys will notice. If you look back in your life, something bad might have happened, but then you're like, you know what? I broke up with that girl or whatever, but you know what? I met the love of my life, or I lost that job, but I found my passion. And the universe,
absolutely.
I think it's,
Yeah.
so
You see
you
it a
guys
lot.
see that?
It's another thing that we see a lot of, and I tell people that now when they're going through a bit of a rocky patch, I say, look, just wait. You'll look back and you'll see that it was good actually. Give it some time. Just let it work through. And I remind them of that. It's always working in your favor, even if you can't see it right at that moment. But I guess that's where you get into that faith thing where you're like, okay. It helps you get through those tricky patches then, because you're like, right, let me see how this plays out.
That's exactly right. And even what Bashar says, and this is interesting, and I don't even like, speaking about his material without him saying it, because I can't say it like he says it. What he says about that is this. He says, we have this thing called the higher mind. Our higher mind is basically a satellite. It's our higher mind sits on top of a mountaintop and sees the whole picture of our life like a film reel. It sees past, present, and future all at once. And our higher mind knows exactly what's good for us. Now, we don't know what's good for us because we're trying to have a physical reality experience. If we saw past, present, and future at once, we would be like this in our house. We wouldn't be able to, have a physical reality experience. So the higher mind is connected to what you would call probably God, source, or whatnot. They call it the Trinity. They'll say many things of the Trinity, but it's us, our higher mind, and what we connect to, which is all the same thing, the same person, the same God, So we're all the same thing. Anyway, so the higher mind is on the top of the mountaintop. It sees everything. It's always guiding you in the direction of your best self. There's just a formula to that. And that formula is you really have to follow your passion, your excitement, your emotions. That's how God speaks to us. That's how the higher mind speaks to us. That's how the universe speaks to us in emotions. When we feel a certain way, it's because it's purposeful. Even depression. Some people get depressed and then they go to their house in depression and they're sitting there and they're crying and then all of a sudden they start reading a book, and then the book gives them a certain inspiration, and that inspiration leads them to their passion, and that passion leads them to the greatest life. And if it wasn't for the depression, they wouldn't be where they were today. So everything is conspiring in our favor. Our higher mind is always working. So the idea, if you're going to talk to some of the best teachers on this planet, they'll say it. Everything's working out. It's always been working out. You don't have to manifest. You don't have to do anything differently. You already chose your greatest, best life. All you have to do is be in the right state of mind. And that automatically brings you to that great timeline. So like you guys were saying before about frequency and vibration, it's all about that. And I had so much fear in my life, and I had fear growing up, going through all this. But then after 40 years of messing everything up in my life, I started saying, oh shit, maybe things were going right. And I just didn't know. So then I learned to, a big part of my book is a lot of the faults I had where I was like, all right, Bashar says this. Let me see this play out. And it plays out. Nightmares all turning in to be blessings. Is that how you guys see it?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's actually a very powerful message, the one of this thing of taking action trapped in time. So effectively taking action within a 3D paradigm. It can only really take you away potentially from, as you put it, that sort of life that was already mapped out, not by fate, but by, your higher self perhaps, and the bigger play that's at work. And, this thing of trying to take action, it's a lot to be said for allowing this sort of more Taoist sort of flow to be going on, rather than sort of jumping in and trying to meddle with a much larger mechanism than you can actually ever really see. So I like the way you presented that.
Yeah, it's an amazing thing. Physical action is how we communicate back to this God of ours. He speaks to us in emotions, and the emotion he speaks to, and Bashar says this, the emotion that guides you to the greatest timeline. There's a feeling, there's an emotion. And if you follow that, it's going to lead you where you need to go for your greatest life. And that's following your excitement. What excites you? What's going to bring you fulfillment? Not like pleasure or pleasure seeking, but more like what excites you. And it's even more interesting than that. You don't have to build the Great Pyramid to follow your excitement. You could just go read a book, because even by reading a book, you may, like I said before, you may read a book. And in that book, you may see something that sparks an idea. And our imagination is our connection to God. It's been trying to talk to us. Napoleon Hill wrote a book, Think and Grow Rich. Basically, he's saying, shut up. The answers are out there. In my book, I speak about this. Ford, Carnegie, Edison, the idea of shutting up and tapping into what they call the miracle force is how they became who they were. They were able to shut up, tap into this force, and they were able to be guided by their thoughts, inspirations, and ideas. And you may have a thought or an idea, and it gives you a little excitement, like, oh, I'm going to start a podcast. And then all of a sudden you're starting a podcast. And then all of a sudden your podcast grows to something else. And then you're writing a book, and then all of a sudden you're on this and you're on that. And you guys are bringing love into this. And you guys are the love that is needed in this podcast, in this true community. You guys are providing the love and all that. So you guys came at the most perfect point, and everything in your lives, in my opinion, is for you to be at this point in time, which is the greatest time in the history of humanity. I have 40 books of Voltaire. These guys talk about the Enlightenment. The Enlightenment was, look, we're done being burnt at the stake here for saying this. We're just trying to talk, and you guys are burning us at the stake. We got to do things differently. And that was the Age of Enlightenment. You stopped getting burned at the stake, and they were allowed to put together, the secrets of the universe. And here we are. But I'll quickly go over the other three. My fourth principle is physical action. All right. It's called, the secret is the power of momentum. When you take one step in the direction of your passion, even if it's writing a to-do list, you start to be led. You start to get an inspiration, an idea. You go to sleep that night, you have a dream. Somebody calls you on your phone and you're like, hey, Mike. And Mike's like, hey, I have a job opening for you. And you're like, what's going on here? And when you take action, physical action, one step in the direction of what that passion is, or whatever that excitement is. Maybe your excitement is going to the mall. Maybe it's going to the beach, because you never know who you're going to see. You never know what you're going to hear. You never know if there's some kind of inspiration that's just going to come to you and hit you over the head. Even if I don't know how you feel about Mike, the pillow guy. Mike, the pillow guy, what's his name? Mike was in jail. And in jail, he had this pillow idea. And in his pillow idea, he was able to make $1 billion from it, from jail. So it's actually, and this has happened all throughout time.
Mike
There
Lindell,
are ideas. Yeah, there's ideas and messages trying to find us. And if we quite, and you open up those pathways when you do what excites you. So if you're painting a picture, you start getting those ideas. If you're writing a book, those ideas come. It's almost, it's a brainwave state that has the answers to all the questions you need to create your greatest reality.
Number 4.
Number 5. So number 5 is this idea of gratefulness. Gratefulness is the vibration of greatness. Everybody hears this gratefulness, but what the heck is this? If you have somebody in your life and you're giving them presents and you're giving them this and they're not grateful for it, are you going to continue to give them stuff? Probably not. And the universe seems to be the same way. The universe gives you so much to be grateful for. I'm going to give you an example. Gary, would you sell your eyesight for $1 billion?
No.
So you're a billionaire. You understand? We're billionaires. We're all billionaires. We're all rich than the richest men in the world, but we are programmed to believe we're billionaires if we have $1 billion. However, we're billionaires, and even better than that, billionaires, their phones ringing all day and all night. Not our phones.
I don't want that either. No,
no, exactly. Nobody wants, exactly. Get enough money to where you're financially maybe, secure without your phone ringing like crazy. So we're born richer than the richest of men. We've just been programmed to think differently. So the idea of gratefulness is that, wow, you know what? We're very lucky. Like, imagine we had to pay for like air, you know what I mean? Everything that we would pay billions of dollars for is free.
I'm sure they'll try that.
Yeah, they're going to try everything they can. They have to get you into that fear state because you're programming, but they know that it's falling apart. People are now like, with you guys and the teachers teaching us and all of us bringing this information together, you start to see through it a little bit, and say, you know what, there is nothing to fear because everything is working out. And you know what? I am grateful. I have freaking 2 eyes, 2 arms, 2 hands. I could get up and walk to the bathroom without missing the bowl. You know what I mean? It's just when you're grateful for what you have. This is what happened in my life. I was never grateful. But as soon as I became grateful for what I had, the things I wanted started to find me. And this is how you break the matrix. This is one of the best ways to break the matrix. When your needs become your wants, you exit the matrix. When your needs when what you need in life is what you want in life, that's how you break the programming. If what you want, I want Lamborghinis, I want to drive this, I want to sit on a yacht, you become, stuck in this matrix, this debt, this spend, this horrible cycle. However, if what you need in life is what you want, I had 2 pairs of jeans for 20 years. They're the best 2 pairs of jeans. I still have them. I don't need 75 pairs of jeans, but I know friends of mine who have 75 pairs of jeans. You know what I mean? So if your needs become your wants, you could start building wealth and accruing wealth, and you could stop the programming, So that's really for when you're grateful for what you have, what you want sometimes finds you. And when you're mature enough to handle what you want, it would do nobody any good to just be handed $10 million, when they're 30 years old. They'll fly off the deep end until they're mature enough in their own consciousness to handle that money. It is no good. I thank the Lord. I lost so much money throughout the years because I wouldn't have been mature enough to handle it, And when I was finally mature enough to handle it, and when I didn't want it, that's when it came. So that's the idea of gratefulness.
Yeah.
Right. I'll jump into number 6 now if you guys have any questions.
No, I agree. And I'll just let them know, the universe, whoever, my higher self, that I'm ready for the 10 million. But I'd be extremely grateful as well. There you go.
What you're doing is worth more than any dollar amount ever give.
I know that. Yeah.
It really
is.
That's
just to jump in for a second and just say that this power of gratitude, authentic gratitude for what might be called the small things, but are actually the most amazing things. This whole notion of this is the miracle. I've always liked that thought that, you know, there's all this looking for the miracle when it's like the sort of proverbial fish swimming in the ocean looking for water. No, this is the miracle. There's nowhere else to look, and there's no need to look anywhere else. Anyway, on that, I'll let you get on with it.
Exactly. That leads us into number 6, which is the journey is the destination.
Yeah.
The path is the process. The experience is really the goal, just to have this experience. Humans have to do 5 things in life: breathe, sleep, eat, excrete, and what else? And sleep. And maybe you need a house or something, or some kind of shelter so you don't get eaten by a bear.
Procreation can be quite good fun as well.
That too. Yeah, that too. And this, for the survival, yes. And when you add that in there, everything else is programming. That's all humans need to do. Everything else is programming. So the journey is the destination. The path is the process. The experience itself is the goal, and wisdom, and seeing the, you know, all these, the universe working in such magical ways is really just like the cherry on top. And all the strife out there brings us together. And when you're in that state of gratitude, I'm going to be jumping back and forth from 5 and 6 now, because they kind of both link into each other. The state of gratitude blocks out the state of fear, because even if something bad happens, you now know that it happens for a reason. They created the coronavirus. However, they caused this mass awakening of humanity. And it's a major risk that they took, because I think we're probably going to ascend, not ascend, fly up into the skies. We're just going to be like, hey, listen, this is more fun talking about this than buying a Ferrari or a Lamborghini. And that kills them, because now we're starting to uncover the secrets of what makes this reality beautiful. And so the journey, everybody's looking for this final destination point. But once they get to this final destination point, it's like, oh, all right, now what? So the journey itself is the destination. And that's the beauty of it. The ups, the downs, whatever happens, it's beautiful. And if anybody could stay in the mindset when something bad happens, I'm going to give you an idea. I had this property I had to sell. It was actually a basket of properties. And I walked into my lawyer's office, and I thought I hope to God I was going to make my money back, which was a lot of money this time. It was $800,000 I thought I was getting. So, you know, that was just the money I put into it. But my lawyer was like, you know, you really want to, it's going to be around 400,000. I was like, whatever, you know. I was like, the universe conspires in your favor. I walk into the lawyer's office. There was a formula, commercial loans. They're having big problems right now. But this was about 3 years ago. Commercial loans are having big problems because in a lot of these contracts, there's time bombs, what I call. And I could teach 50 lessons on this. But anyway, there was a formula that took if you guys know what happened, the interest rates went down in 2020, 2021, and my interest rate was up here. So when I sold my properties, the bank was only going to get this amount of money for the money I returned. So there was actually a formula that said I had to pay all that money for the majority of the loan, but we didn't know that. So instead of getting back 800,000, I had to pay 400,000. And I sat there, and my lawyers wouldn't look at me. Nobody looked at me. And we all looked at each other, and I was laughing. And they didn't know if I gone mad or whatever, but I was like, I did go mad, but I was like, you know, that's kind of funny. I kind of laughed at that. And I swear, as soon as I laughed at that, and as soon as I was like, who gives a shit about anything, you know, whatever, life really started to work in my way after that. It's like, you know, when you're grateful for, it's like the demons that have been attacking you and feeding off your energy, you don't give them that energy. They go away. And now all of a sudden, all good things started to happen in my life after that. I just needed to prove to the universe that I could not react a certain way. When we control our reactions, we master this matrix. That's, if you control your reactions to anything, no matter how bad it is, that's when you really start to master this reality. You become an observer. You become you build like this indestructible core around you, and they can't get to you no more. And now all of a sudden, you become this guiding light, you know, and that's what happened. And I found that inner strength. And now, knowing that I can lose that money and not give a crap, even though I look back, I still get a little sick, don't get me wrong. I still want to throw up. But, you know, it is what it is. It happened, and I got through it, and it was amazing. And now I feel good. I still want to strangle everybody. Don't get me wrong, but
We all have those moments. It's frustrating.
ah.
Yeah.
And number seven, I leave to Bashar. This is Bashar's formula. I'll give you the information to Bashar's formula. It has to do, it's a 5-step formula. I tell him that when I do these, I would bring him on to do that. I don't want to say his own formula because he could say it better than everybody else. And for your people watching, I want them to review Bashar. I want them to research this guy. And when you guys see him, you're going to understand what I'm talking about because I scoured the world for the best teachers on this planet. And I found Darryl Anka and I found Billy Carson. And I found them two to be two that we could really, they are taking on the power. I'm not going to say they're taking on the powers that be. I don't want to say that, but they are speaking their heart and they don't care. And they're going to say whatever they're going to say. And that's that. So that's where we stand. So the seventh principle is Bashard's formula. So if you guys could,
Yeah.
It's quite nice to have that as a sort of cliffhanger and an anchor or a bridge, should I say, into people doing their own. I mean, the other thing about what we're doing is the intention is to spur that thing of searching for joy, interest, inspiration, and whatever, and that people will go off and look at other material, read other books, find out about other people. So I think it's nice to sort of culminate around something that says, if this has got to you, if this has reached you at that part that makes you take action, then there's something very specific you can go and do, which is engage with that material.
Yeah, it's great. It really is the key that unlocks the door to all those other principles, and it's such an easy step. It's so funny because when you talk to some of these guys, you think the material is going to be so complex at the top levels to master this reality. But even though everything is so complex, this universe is so complex, the principles to navigate this reality, they're so simple. They're the Fibonacci sequence. 1 + 1 = 2. 2 + 1 = 3. They have to be simple principles, or else we'd all be bumping into each other. So you could see this is some kind of simulation, if you want to call it, because there's a lot of math. And in a simulation, there's a way to navigate it. And these are the principles that navigate it. And the people who rule us, they don't rule us based on gods. They do it based on beliefs. What we believe to be true becomes true in our reality. So we create our reality as we believe. And, I've seen it. We've seen all these miracles. So I'm just glad you guys brought me on and you guys are gods. You really are. To me, you guys are gods and amen. I hope I could help you in any way and
Yeah,
God bless. If you ever need anybody, I'm always there for you.
Thank you very much.
Always
I
be there for
really
you.
appreciate it. Your book is not quite out yet, or is it now?
No, you know what? I'm going to give you a link to. I have an author page going.
Yes.
All the profit from this book I'm giving away. So I'm making zero profit on this book. I'm giving it all away. So I'm kind of new at putting these books on. I don't feel like doing any of that or marketing or anything. So what I'm going to do is I made this author page, and I guess you could put your email in it. So I guess I'll email you the link to the author page.
Great. Thank you. Yeah.
And then you could throw it on the bottom of it, whatever your site, YouTube, wherever you guys put it. And it's just what an honor to meet you guys, an honor to get in front of you guys.
Likewise. Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm very glad to hear you come on and speak your truth and do it with so much gusto and joy and also authenticity is the key aspect to what we're trying to bring to bear, and we can feel that's where you're coming from. So that is the single most important thing for us. So thank you, Adam. It's been a pleasure and a privilege.
Hopefully you'll join
us
again.
Friends. You two are angels, two guardian angels of this planet.
Thank you.
And it's the power you guys have in your own authenticity, in your own need. You're not there to. You just said it was one of the most beautiful things in the world. All you wanted to do, you didn't know what to do. You just know something needed to be done. And you took that step, and that's like, oh my God, that's like that. My heart melts when I hear that because you didn't know what to do, but you knew something had to be done, and you did it. And this is where it is. So I'm glad to be part of it. Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much.
It's a pleasure.
Real pleasure. Again, Adam. Come talk about.
All right. Yes, I'm here whenever you need me. Bye, guys.
Take care, fella.
Take care.